That was actually smooth.
I think we got it.
I know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think we're all on.
All 5.
This one we're waiting on still. It's coming up. There it is. There it is. We finally got it.
Hi, everybody.
Well, welcome everybody to Monday Night Live.
Yes, the best night of the week.
With the lovely Kate Simmons. I'm Dean Nixon here at Turning Leaf Health and Wellness out of sunny St. George, Utah.
Dean, you got to scooch a little closer to me. I did shower today, folks.
Yeah.
I don't.
Trying to get over to the Instagram feed. We got all these different feeds, people, so bear with us as we try to figure it out. So, well, we're excited to be back with you this week and to be able to continue doing what we love, which is getting good information and content out to everybody to help people grow and help people move forward. And that's always our intention. We're very grateful for those of you that are always chiming in and talking and sharing with us and giving us your thoughts and insights and feedback. A special thanks to those that are always liking and sharing our videos.
Yes.
It's so fun when you do that, and it's exciting. So,
and as always, we like to call it share the love, right? Because we come at you from our heart, trying to share with you the things, the thoughts and feelings in our hearts. So when you progress that forward, we just get a better output and hopefully a ripple effect of love around the planet, which, Dean, is what we're talking about today.
Yes, it is.
We're just leading with all sorts of love. So you guys, check it out. I just finished reading a book for the second time in my life called The 5 Love Languages. If you've not checked this out, it's a really good read. It's pretty simple. And it goes into a lot of really cool information as far as relationships. I know Gary Chapman is the author, and he's got a number of different ones that he's written. He's written like The 5 Love Languages of Children and of Teens. And the one I just read was particularly really catered around marriage. And I just really love that idea of learning how to speak other people's love language.
Right.
And I say that he's written a number of different books addressing these different audiences and the different relationship types, because I think that it's also really cool that this could apply to all relationships and not just romantic ones.
100%. Yeah, it's one that can be used even in an office setting and a business environment, is really understanding, even though it's not a romantic love or a familial love, it is a love for your fellow employees or fellow human beings.
Absolutely. So let's quickly talk about each of the 5, if that's chill, Dean, and kind of some.
It's super chill.
Is that super chill?
Super chill. Well, and before you jump into it, I do want to mention one of the things that we do love is reading books.
Yes.
And that's really big on our agenda and big on what we do. It's been our real mission, especially the last 3 to 4 years here at Turning Leaf. So if you're ever looking for good books or good book suggestions, please reach out to us. We have a bevy of them.
Yes, we do.
I work to read anywhere between 30, 40 to sometimes 50 books a year if I can nowadays, which is, for me, anybody that knows me, that's a miracle.
Right. And and Dean uses the word read very loosely.
Loosely. I'm more audible book. So when I say read, it's I listen to my books, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
So I have a lot of people that will come in and be like, I'll recommend a book. They're like, can I do Audible? I'm like, absolutely.
Of course.
It still counts as reading.
Absolutely. And the frustrating part for me is I'm a very physical kinesthetic learner. So I love the hard, I was going to say brick and mortar, but that's not the right materials to make a book. But I love holding the book. So if we're ever reading the same one, he's done in a weekend, and I'm like, chapter 4.
Yeah, it takes her a minute to catch up.
Because you listen to it on 3 or 4x.
Three times
speed.
But the fun part about it is also if you're into our podcasts, we talk a lot about our books on our podcast. That's where you'll find more of us talking about the books. But today, we're talking about the one you just finished.
Yeah, we thought we'd bring this to you guys. Shout out, first of all, Christine, we love you too.
Yes.
Over here, Christine says that she loves it. Thank you. So if you're not familiar with any of the love languages, there's 5 of them. And the first one is words of affirmation, which I don't know if you guys know this about me, is one of my primary love languages. I often say, all I need you to do is hold my hand and tell me I'm pretty. And I'm going to be really satisfied in our relationship, because words are a big deal to me. I've always been a word nerd. And words of affirmation aren't, once again, we're not only looking at this from a romantic point of view. It's anything to affirm, any articulated word way of affirming someone in what they've done for you, in how they look, in how you've made them feel. Even notes like handwritten letters or thank you notes are a big deal to people who really identify with the love language of words of affirmation.
Yeah, and to really kind of flesh that out even more is it's about communication.
Yes.
So these are individuals that thrive on listening and being heard. And this is really important. So when you have a loved one that this is their love language, it's very important that we spend a lot of time learning how to listen to them. And I have that a lot. When people come in, they'll sit down and they think they're amazing listeners, but they're actually amazing fixers. and or they're amazing, repeaters or hype men or people that are kind of there to inflame or throw gas on the fire. That's not listening.
Right.
So we really got to learn how the best way to listen to them is. And then also, what is it that they need to hear that's true and authentic?
Exactly. And the authentic piece is a big one, because if someone's really into communication, they're pretty good at weeding out what is and isn't authentic, because it's something that's they're keen on. They have that like honed in pretty good.
Right.
In my experience anyway. Can we tell them like a real life example of this?
It's up to you.
So Friday, we were in here having a conversation and you were telling me about Dobby.
Yes.
Right. And we just had a new person come into our world whose name rhymes with Dobby. And I was like, no, that's not right, Dean. And you're like, no, listen to me. I'm like, I am listening to you. And you're like, no. What did you say to me? It was really good. You're listening to hear instead of to understand.
Yes, you're listening to respond rather than to hear, to listening to what I'm saying.
Yes. And so then you were like, because isn't Dobby the little elf
house
troll
elf
guy is what you said.
I did say troll guy. You corrected me.
I corrected you. Who wanted the sock in Harry Potter, which, by the way, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. So that was Dean trying to like connect with me on one of my levels. So this is like a perfect example about words of affirmation.
Yeah, and listening. And so they're both good examples is listening to know what they need to hear, what's important to them, and listening to the people in your life and knowing what their interests are and what's important to them, so that you're talking from that language and relating. But also sometimes we listen to respond rather than to hear what the person's saying. So two great points.
Two great points. One example, two birds, one stone. Don't kill the birds. Okay, so the next love language that we're going to talk about is called quality time. And this love language is all about just spending time together and in activities that are particularly inclusive, right? You can't I think you can like sit together and watch a movie. Right. Like that would be time spent together. So it doesn't necessarily have to be super engaging. Usually people have kind of a hybrid one. So if the love languages are words of affirmation and quality time, then there would need to be some conversation in that quality time, which would just like skyrocket how much love that person is feeling if that's their language. But any time spent together doing things together is what quality time is all about.
Right.
With undivided attention, I think too, like watching a movie is something, but being on your phone and like not really engaged in whatever you guys are doing together isn't exactly quality time.
Right. And that's what we have to find out what that looks like. And I like to use that example and a great, to quote our good friend Terry Iverson, it's holding space.
Yes.
And so we're really holding space. And what does that look like? For some people, like you said, it's the two connected of words and time. It's about really communicating and talking, etc. But then there are others that, as we get into some of the other ones, you're going to see that just being with that person, wherever they are, you don't have to be talking, you don't have to be verbally interacting, but you're literally present, showing up in their lives can be quality time. So showing up to an activity, showing up to a game, showing up to and sitting on the couch watching a movie, even though you may fall asleep, but you're there holding space. And I think that's another great way to look at it is, how am I holding the space for this person? And is it matching what it is that they need from me?
Absolutely. And I think another piece of that is on the receiving end is this person is choosing to spend time with me instead of doing all the other things that they could be doing.
Right.
And so that like just goes to like add more layers to that. Oh, this is me getting my love needs met.
Right.
I think that's pretty important too. So the next one, because man, time is flying while we're talking about
looking
these.
At the time going,
I know.
We're good.
We're all right. So the next one is acts of service. And unlike quality time, this one is all about what you are doing.
Right.
Right. Not just being, but what you are doing. So vacuuming, taking out the trash, going a little above and beyond to do something nice for them is this love language.
Yeah. And we have to be aware, and we've got to have really good boundaries with this one, because acts of service can also look like enabling.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And sometimes we think, well, I'm enabling this or I'm serving this person, or I'm doing these acts of service so this person feels loved or valued or cared about. But what we're not recognizing is that we're enabling them.
Yes.
And I always use that definition of if you are doing something for someone that they are more than capable of doing for themselves, then you're enabling them.
Mm-hmm.
And there can be healthy enabling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can buy somebody flowers and they're more than capable of buying themselves flowers. But if I buy them flowers, it moves the relationship forward. So we do want to look at those acts of service. Are they enabling, or are they healthy acts of service that are moving that individual forward?
Mm-hmm.
And that service can be so many different things. It can be just, you know, filling up somebody's tank with gas.
Mm-hmm.
It can be leaving a note or a message. It can be cleaning up after yourself, for heaven's sakes,
right,
people.
Right.
I mean, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially with people that are maintaining the home. And, you know, it's not just women nowadays, it's men and women that are maintaining the home. And just picking up after yourself, doing little things can really, really be powerful. And that's the one I really want to touch on is acts of service don't have to be big.
No. Mm-mm.
They can be simple, small, many things pile up to big.
Yes.
So they can be big, but they can also be a series of small things.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. And for those people that really see this love language and really respond to it because that's the way that they perceive love, those little things are going to go a big, big way.
A long
way. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people kind of have this love language throughout what they recognize, right?
Yep.
However, in the book, I love Gary brings up a lot of incidences where someone will be just like serving their partner, and their partner not really realizing that that's them showing them love because that's not their love language, not the way that they get their love cup filled. And I love how he calls it that, like a love tank filled, right? So that part's really interesting. And why don't we just talk about that for a second, and then we'll get the last two since we're on this.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting in interacting with people that you want them. I think there's a couple layers here. People that you want to, that you want to make sure that they feel your love, right? So then you have to speak their language. And that's what I love about the book is it talks about how everyone's got their own different language. So like I said, mine are physical touch and words of affirmation, similar to Christine over here, right?
Yeah, yep.
And so like for you to come up and give me a hug really fills my love tank. I really feel fueled by that. But some people that really don't identify is a really weird word to put there, but don't feel that touch really fills their love tank.
Right.
They're just gonna be like, oh, hug, whatever, see you later, right? So in the relationships that we have, whatever they may be, it's important to learn how to speak the other person's language.
Right.
So that it's perceived as love, which is why acts of service came in, because you can just,
okay. Let me pause you. Okay. Let me help you. Because I'm
doing great.
You're doing amazing.
Thank you.
And there's some words of affirmation.
Thank you. I was just going to say thank you for all of that affirmation.
So essentially what Kate's saying is to understand what another person's love language is, sometimes we have to look at what they're doing for us.
Yes, 100%.
Because if they're always doing these acts of service and they think they're expressing love, we may go, man, you're missing it by a mile. But if you're not careful, you'll miss the fact that they're telling you what their love language is.
Yes.
And so be aware. And also, if you are out there and you're going, I don't know what my love language is. Well, look at how you express love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing Kate was saying is
look
at the way you express love. If you express love a certain way with hugs, then maybe that's because it's touch. But if you're giving people hugs and nothing's there, then it's probably something else.
Different. Yeah. And I love that perspective too, and the ability to learn how to speak a different language, because they don't all come naturally to us, right? Like quality time and acts of service don't come very naturally to me, but I try really hard for those in my life that really do that.
Yep.
You know?
So as we get to the last two.
The next one is physical touch, which can get a little bit crazy if you just like let it roll that way when you think about relationships. But this is way more than just anything that's sexual. Like it's high fives, it's putting your arm around somebody, it's hugs, it's anything like that would be an expression of love with physical touch.
Right.
And I think sometimes people can get that kind of messed up in their head because of the words love and physical touch together.
And I do think you're right. And I loved how you tapped on it. And I really want to hurry, but you touched on a pinch point here with people sexualize that.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, well, you know, and I hear this a lot from wives. Well, I know what my husband's is. It's physical touch. And it's, well, maybe, but don't confuse sexuality with the need for physical touch.
Absolutely.
Because physical touch doesn't have to be, like you were saying, it's just simply being close to somebody can fulfill that. And so when you have that, if that's a need or something that you're craving, there's a lot of ways to get it. For example, I worked with a client years ago that was in New York, and her love language was physical touch, and her way of coping with, because at the time, she was not in a relationship. So oddly enough, not in a weird or not in a perverse or sexual way, but one thing that she would do is get on the subway and get on the subway train, because there was a lot of physical touch.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
And so it wasn't a weird way she was doing it. It was just she was getting that cup filled by having people touch. And so we can look at that and recognize that there's a lot of different pieces here and a lot of moving parts to it, but we do want to remember that physical touch doesn't have to be sexualized. No. Physical touch can be, like you said, just a physical closeness to a person that you're lending that space to.
And in fact, I would push my limit out as far as to say that if physical touch is your love language, then it's not going to have anything to do with sex at all.
Right.
Like I can get a hand hug from a friend and have my love cup just brimming in my heart. You don't know what that is?
I don't know if I want to know.
Well, just high five me and then put your thumb around. Aw, that's a hand hug.
Okay.
You know, in the COVID day era when we can't like really sometimes bring people in, you can do a hand hug.
I guess we'll have to
see. So if doing
how
hand hugs kind of fills your love cup, most likely physical touch is going to be towards the top of your list.
I just hope everybody out there just got the biggest laugh at that.
You're welcome, America.
Last
one, which is gift giving. So the art of giving gifts.
Yes.
And it is an art. And for people that speak this language, gifts are very thoughtful.
And they're great at it.
And they're so good at it. If you have a gift giver in your life that this is their love language, you know that they're a gift giver because they are good at it.
And please don't try to compete with them.
No. Right. And I love that in your acts of service, you brought up getting someone flowers, right? So that would be a kind of coupled experience of a love language, right? Doing something kind as a service, but also it's a gift.
Yep.
And so that would really fill someone's love fuel that reads that language. I don't really read that language. I love getting gifts. Like who doesn't like to get a present, but like, that's not really one of mine. However, my sister Allison, she is an amazing gift giver. And that is one of her like super cool love languages that she speaks.
And that's another good one that we want to have really good boundaries with.
Yes.
Because gift giving, we want to look at that gifts don't have to be bought all the time. And gifts don't always have to be something that's physical or monetary. It can actually be a note, very similar to acts of, with words. But it can be more than that. It can be time spent. It can be et cetera, as long as it's conveyed that the person knows that this is the gift. And so we need to recognize what is it that really helps that person feel loved and connected and what that gift is. And when it comes to gifts and gift giving, one of the things I love about gifts as a love language is that it is one that you can be super creative with. And it can be one that people may not understand all the depths of, but a person that's their love language, they will hang on to things.
Oh, yes.
And I will see some people that are accused of being hoarders, so to speak, because every single thing that's given to them, they have sentimental value to it. Mm-hmm. And they hang on to it, from postcards to notes to totems to all sorts of different things. And that is a really powerful thing.
Mm-hmm. I love over here on this feed, Kim says, my sister is a gift giver. She has a closet stashed full of gifts. Chances are that might be her love language, Kim.
Yeah.
If that's the way she expresses that, that's probably how she perceives love coming back at
100%. And if they're the ones that are listening, and when you're talking about something, like you go through a store and they're like, oh, I love that, they will go, oh, I remember that.
Yeah, they will remember.
They will remember, and they will make sure that that's something that you get.
Yes.
And because that's something that's important to them.
Yeah. So that's the 5 love languages, you guys. Take a look at yourself. If you're like Dean said, I don't really know what my love language is. How do you express love? Most likely that's the way that you have that mirror come up for you as what would fill your love fuel, right? Your capacity for it. And then start getting really curious about the people around you. Yep. There are quizzes you can take online and all that kind of stuff, but really experiencing someone is the best way to understand the way that they speak love.
100%.
Yep.
Well, as always, thank you. We're out of time. We don't have time. We've got so many comments.
Everybody's commenting.
All these
we love you guys.
Feeds.
Amber, thank you so much.
Please, again, thank you for liking and sharing our videos, and feel free to do so. Follow us on YouTube and be looking for our podcasts and share those as well.
Yay! Have a great week, you guys.
All right. And we'll see you next week on
Monday Night Live.
All right.
Bye.
I'll go up here.
I can edit this one.